Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Wall, sponsored by Campus Steaks, Downtown State College on Pew Street. Go check them out. It's a Philly thing. Today, I am joined by Adam Taliaferro, Penn State legend. Adam, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Man, I appreciate you having me, man. It's my honor to be with you today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm excited to get in. Everybody knows Adam Taliaferro, like I said. He is an absolute legend here around these Penn State streets. But I'm excited to dive into it. I want to talk a little bit about, your early days, recruitment, also what you're doing now, all that type of stuff. I know a lot of people are interested in what you are up to nowadays. Very influential man, doing a lot of cool stuff. But first, I want to go back. Take me back to those high school days. You're obviously a big-time recruit, and I think for a little while there, Penn State fans did not think they were going to land you. And so I just want to ask, what was that recruitment like? What schools were going after you the hardest? And do you have any specific memories of visits, not only just Penn State, but other schools you went to that were really weighing on you heavy, whether you're going to go there or Penn State?
Yeah, man. Well, it wasn't like you, man. I was just trying to find my way in high school, but I started getting recruited. I went to Penn State football camp after my sophomore year in high school. I broke my collarbone, so missed most of my sophomore year, and so I went to camps. Went to Penn State, and my junior year, they offered me a scholarship, but Nebraska was my first one. And then you know how it is. Once one school offers you, like all the other schools start coming in. So, it was all the Big Ten schools. But for me, I wanted to stay, if I could, somewhat close to home. So I committed to Penn State into my junior year and just thought I was locked in. But like 17, 18-year-old kids, when you start getting calls from other folks, you start looking to see what else is out there. And for me, Tennessee really started to rise to the top. So I was committed to Penn State, and this is before social media. There wasn't Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff, Instagram. But I went down to Tennessee and just man, this place is crazy. It's like the stadium's right on the water. They're like, if you come, you're gonna play as a freshman. Telling all the stuff you want to hear as a kid picking a school. So I went on the trip down there, and the Penn State folks found out about it. I was like, oh man, I find out. But Coach Paterno called and was like, "Hey man, you're either with us or you're not." And I remember my dad was talking to him on the phone, and after that call, we were like, we're in. And I always say Kenny Jackson, who's my recruiting coach, he's a Penn State legend, man, and he's well known. I'm from South Jersey, and everyone down this way, of course, knew Kenny Jackson. He would come to all my high school games, my basketball games. He had been with me from the very beginning. So after I thought about it, I was like, man, it's just Penn State's the best move. And it's only 3 hours from my house. And coach said, if you come, you'll have a chance to play as a freshman. So for me, it was like let's do it. And I was from that point forward, I didn't take any more visits. And my entire senior year, I was locked in to go to Penn State.
Yeah, that's a great story. No, and it's funny. Back then, I'm sure you could probably go to a school, make a trip, and not hear other coaches not hear about it. Yeah, because there really was no 24/7. There was no rivals.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's fun. Were you worried when you were there that the coaches Paterno was going to find out?
Yeah, because the coaches during that time, they were calling you, emailing you, just saying, hey, keep me up to let me know what's going on. And they were pretty forthright. Hey, if you're going to take a visit somewhere, just let us know. But, as a 17-year-old kid, you're not trying to have that conversation. You're I'm just going to go on the low and just check it out, because most likely I'm not going to like it that much. But I went down there, the visit was great. The facilities were awesome. And I was like, man, this is cool. I still, to this day, I don't know how Coach Paterno or any of the Penn State people found out about it. But literally, we flew home, and the next day we got a call, and I heard my dad. You can hear Coach Paterno had a very distinct voice, and I remember just hearing his voice through the phone to my dad. And I was like, "Oh man, this is good." And then you start thinking man, they're gonna pull my scholarship, all that.
Yeah. But
we decided, I was like, man, I'm done, And from that point forward, we were locked in, and it was good. Like I said, I was excited because when I committed to Penn State in '99, when I committed, they were the number one ranked team in the country. They had LeVar, Brandon Short, all those guys, man. So it was, for me, it was like, man, this can't get any better. I'm committed to one of the best teams in the country, and I was just really excited to get my college career started.
Yeah, you mentioned that relationship with Kenny Jackson. I know obviously he was the wide receivers coach. You were a DB. But can you talk about that? Because I know fans love to hear about guys they don't normally hear from, and we haven't, Kenny Jackson, haven't heard from him much recently, and he is absolute legend. A lot of the younger guys my age, they might not even know Kenny Jackson is, which is an absolute crime to not know that. But probably one of the best wide receivers ever to play here. What was that relationship like early on when he was recruiting you, and then also by the time you got here?
Yeah, I remember because everyone, they call him Shank. And first time I met him was at Penn State football camp, and he knew a little bit about me because, like I said, when he played for the Eagles, he lived down here in South Jersey. So I think he even knew my high school coach. So we kind of just connected from the very beginning. And anyone that knows Kenny Jackson, he will make you feel like you've known him for years, even if you just meet him for the first time. He's got this charismatic dude that is he's like a player's coach. I tell people all the time, he is the ultimate player's coach. You can go to talk to him about anything in life. And even as a high school kid, I wasn't on the team yet, but he would just call me, hey, how's life going? And that's the thing I appreciated about him is when we had conversations, even as he was recruiting me, it was rarely about football. It was just about life, how's school going, all that. You could tell he cared about you as a person. And, him and Tom Bradley, who was the defensive backs coach when I was there, both of them, that's what really got, of course, Coach Paterno is a legend, being up, but as a player, you're going to be playing for your position coach and you get to know your recruiting coordinator first. And both of those guys were my first interaction with Penn State. I was like, man, if all the coaches are like this is the place I want to go. And, he cracked jokes. He wasn't serious. I mean, he was serious when he needed to be, but you could tell that he wasn't just blowing smoke. He's like, yo, if you come, I'm telling you, you do what you got to do. You're going to play as a freshman. And I was like, man, I bought into it. And everything he told me and Tom and even Joe, it came true when I got here.
Yeah, I feel like from a recruiting standpoint, the coaches that can make it seem like they're not really trying to recruit you and they're just pals, those are always the best recruiters. It's not even close. So I feel like that's really awesome that that Joe Paterno had those type of guys around his staff. I'm sure he knew what he had in his assistant coaches. And shoot, back then, now there's a whole recruiting staff. Back then, it was just the coaches. They went out on the trails, and that was it. There was no staff, no nothing.
No, man, they were getting in the car. And a lot of these dudes, now, guys fly private and take helicopters go in and out. They were taking road trips, man, and just pulling up.
Yeah, they were thugging it back in the day. That's awesome. So when you got to the team, who would you say were kind of the leaders of the team, leaders of the locker room?
Yeah, when I got there, I would say our leaders were guys like Justin Kirpakis, Balju, James Boyd. On the offensive side, we had Eric McCoo, Larry Johnson, Brian Johnson, Omar Easy, all those dudes, man. And you know how it is as a freshman. You come in, all of us, every person at Penn State was the man in high school, man in your whole state for the most part. When you get up there, you see the size of guys. I remember first time I got up there, it was different when I was coming up. You graduated from high school. I know guys come up now super early. I remember graduating from high school. I played in our Governor's Bowl, which is New Jersey versus New York. I played in that game. Then I come up to Penn State, and you walk in the locker room, you're man, Omar Easy was the first dude I saw. And anyone that knows Omar is he's a linebacker playing running back. And I'm I'm 190. I'm a DB, and I look at him, I'm that's the dude I'm going to have to tackle at some point. And I started questioning myself, man, this is real. But you just see the athleticism. You walk in the weight room, you see guys just pushing, pumping weight, and it could be intimidating, man. For any freshman you first come in, you see the size, the speed, the athleticism, just in your own locker room. You're man, this is real. So I remember, for me, it was 2000 for my freshman year, and even almost 25 years later, I still vividly remember my first time walking in the locker room, and our equipment managers at that time was Spider and Kirk, and they're fitting you for your helmet. And I'm damn, I'm about to put on the Penn State helmet. This is crazy. It's just a cool experience, man.
Yeah, dude. As a freshman, when you walk in that locker room, it's kind of you just you're just trying to keep your head down and not get in any trouble, really not getting noticed in any bad ways as much as possible. And yeah, I know Omar now too. Dapping him up, it's your hand is gets lost, and he's got these mitts too. I can't even imagine walking into a locker room, led by those guys. And I'm sure that culture that's just bred by that type of guys. It's unmatched. You don't see that in any other type of locker rooms. And honestly, it was probably different then than it is now in any type of locker room. The culture, just everything is so different now with NIL, transfer portal. There's so much turnover. And back then, y'all don't really. When you were there, you really don't see guys. It was so hard to leave and transfer out. You had to sit out a year.
you were locked in, man. You had to have like
We signed that contract.
Yeah, like you're not going nowhere. You better just sit down and just and play it out. And that's the thing. Like it's so amazing now to see how dudes like. I was just reading something like a dude transfer like every year. Like man, like you said, back then you had to sit out a whole year, and then it was a whole mess. So I don't remember anybody like my entire 5-year experience at Penn State ever leaving, or people left. When they left, they never played again.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's hard to get back on the fit back. I mean, even just a couple of years ago, I remember it was like you just didn't leave. You had to sit out a year. It was really difficult. But Adam, I want to like transition into like you playing. So what was that season started? Like, what was your thought process going into the season? Did you think you were going to get some playing time that freshman season? And we know like Coach Paterno did not like to play freshmen. He was not about that. So for him to even want to like play you, what was kind of that thought process of how that was going to go for you as a freshman?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the coaches were so transparent with me when I first got here. They're like, listen, you know, we're a little thin in our secondary. We brought like 3 or 4 guys in. Someone's going to have to play. So if you do what you're supposed to do, you'll have a shot. And that's how I went into it. And, you know, like any freshman, man, all you want is an opportunity. And, you know, all of us know how to compete. So that entire summer it was just like, man, I'm just going to do everything I can to show these guys that I can get out there. And it's crazy. My first scrimmage, we had your first scrimmage, you have it in the stadium, and we're scrimmaging, and I blitz and make a play, and I broke my thumb. So I'm like, man, like my whole freshman season about to be done. Because like in high school, you break a bone, like you're out. Yes, I didn't realize like in college now, like you break it. I had surgery like the next Dr. Sebastian. I did my surgery and like, all right, next week you're back out there. I'm like, what? Like I got pins in my thumb. So that was my first like, wow, this is like big time football where you get right back out there. But I was like, man, I'm playing with one arm, trying to, I'm a freshman playing DB with one hand. But they were like, hey, I remember we were playing USC, Southern Cal, in our first game, and I was like, man, the day before meetings, they're like, Adam, you're gonna be playing like nickel and dime and special teams. And I just remember being so excited, man. Like I felt like I was like, that was the first step in my dream. You know how it is. Like all of us that go there, we want to play in the NFL one day. And I was like, man, I'm playing as a freshman. Like, this is it, man. Like I'm on my way. And like I said, that previous season, Penn State was ranked number 1. Like most of the season, they lost their last 3 games. So everyone's like, that 3 games was like just something crazy happened. We'll be right back at it this year. We were playing USC, and they had Carson Palmer. Carson won the Heisman, but they came out and they beat us. I'm like, oh man, this is not what we expected. And then we lost. Like we beat like Louisiana Tech, and then we lost to Akron, which was crazy because I didn't even know. Like you would have asked me, I didn't even know what Akron was.
What? I didn't know we lost to Akron. What?
Akron at home. Wild. Then we lost to Pitt. Pitt's like a big rival. We lost to Pitt. And then we were playing Ohio State, and like I was so excited because Ohio State game was the first game my cast came off. So like, oh, it's about to really be go time now. I got my hands back, and I was getting more and more playing time. Like I wasn't playing anything crazy. Like, and if we were up by a lot or losing by a lot, then I was getting a lot of reps. But I was getting in there like nickel and dime. So I was just like, man, I was just happy to be out there. And then the game came against Ohio State where went in to make a tackle. We were getting blown out, man. I look back on it all the time, like, man, I should have just kind of took it a little easier. But as a freshman, you're going all out every single play. And went in to make a tackle in the Ohio State game, and that's where I broke my neck, and that's where the trajectory of my career, my life, and everything basically changed. That day in Columbus.
Yeah, Adam. So after that happened, and you kind of. After obviously it took a little bit of time, but you realize you're going to have to basically find a plan B. And I feel like that's something I'm really big on. Both you and me, we had to find a plan B. And that's really the reality for, I think, a lot of athletes just around the world. No matter what, even if you play 10 years in the NFL, you got to find something after you're done. So I think first I just want to talk about your advice to athletes now for finding a plan B and not necessarily, having to be ready right now, but having another interest, something else after football, whether it gets taken from you because you never know when it's going to be your last snap, or whenever your football career ends. Hopefully, everybody has everybody wants to have a long NFL career. But what do you have to say about having that plan B and being ready for something like that?
Yeah, Len. I mean, you and I both know it firsthand how quick it can come, and and hit you. But as you mentioned, man, there's going to be a point, irregardless if it's high school, college, NFL, where that career is going to come to an end. And I'll be the first one to tell you, like football, like all of us, football was all I did. Like I didn't have any other interests. I didn't think I was going to ever work a real job. I just thought like you couldn't tell me that I was not going to just play in the NFL and that was it. So that's how I kind of, I always did good in school, but I didn't focus on any specific path. But the best advice that I give to anybody that's playing football or any sport is like, man, just you're so much more talented than just playing your sport, and figure out where you want to channel that energy. Because as athletes, you have the work ethic already to do whatever it is that you want to put your mind to. So it's just figuring out early on which way you want to go. And for me, I didn't ever took the time out to think about what direction in life I wanted to go to. I was forced into it, and I wanted to stay involved in sports in some way. So for me, I wanted to be a sports attorney. All of our teammates are going on to play in the NFL, and like I couldn't play anymore. But I see like these agents coming to campus, like people that have no relationships, like they're just, you could clearly see they're just like in it for themselves. Like, man, I want to do this differently. Like I'm friends with these guys. Like all I gotta do is learn the business and get my law degree, and I'm going to be like killing it in the agent game. So I tell you that story to say, like, I wish I would have done that when I first got to Penn State, because even if you're an NFL player, at some point your career is going to be done and you can be an agent. So whatever path people go, I said, just try to, whether dedicate an hour a day or whatever it is, just to figuring out what path of life you want to go. Because when you're playing, it's when you have the most access to people and resources. There's not one person that's not going to take a call from a Penn State football player saying, hey, I play here at Penn State. I realize that you're in this field. I would love to meet you, have a conversation. There will always be, we have the largest alumni base in the world. So there's always going to be someone in whatever field you decide to go to that's going to be willing to talk to you and lend their expertise. I had a Penn Stater, a guy, Doug Allen, who was the vice president of the NFL Players Association. He got me my first internship when I was at Penn State. And I worked with the NFL PA for a summer. And that's what got me started towards the law path and gave me the inspiration to go to law school. So I just say, just find your path, find your passion. We all are passionate about sports, but you got to have something else for when this ride comes to an end.
Come to the Student Bookstore downtown on College Ave. Whether you need a game day fit or you're just chilling in the crib, Student Bookstore has all your Penn State clothing needs. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's important to be ready, because like you said, in a snap of a second, it can all be gone. But you were talking about the support and really the Penn State alumni network that we have access to. What did that mean to you? Just following your injury, the type of support you felt from the Penn State community, from lettermen, from alumni, all of that. I know I've spoken about it a lot of how much that helped me. You just talk about, how you choosing Penn State. I mean, what did that mean to you after everything happened?
Yeah, man. I tell people all the time, like people are like, oh, maybe if you would have went to Tennessee, you would never gotten injured. And I'm like, man, you can't think that way. Like life, these things are, I think they're just meant to be. I mean, it's one of those things where our careers weren't meant to be in football. And I say I got hurt in the best place you could ever get hurt in, because I never realized how tight the Penn State community is until I had my injury. You hear them say we are Penn State in the stadium and all that stuff. But I remember waking up in the hospital, and it was probably like 2 days after my injury. I had surgery, and I'm like out of it. And I wake up and my room is already filled with cards from like Penn State fans from like across the country. I'm like, man, like I just got hurt like 2 days ago. I'm like, I had like 300 cards. And then I was in therapy. I was in rehab for 7 months, trying to relearn how to walk again. And I was in Philly, and there would be people that would just stop by the hospital and be like, hey, I work in the city. I'm a Penn Stater. I just want to come and check in and see how you're doing. I'm like, man, these people never met me. They have no connection to me whatsoever. But we've got that Penn State bond, and people were willing to take time out of their busy schedule to come see me. Or like outside of my hospital room, there's like a big building, and people were putting 43s in their windows, and they're all like Penn State alums. So I'd say I just learned how special. I knew it was a special place. We all go there for a reason. But I really saw the power of the Penn State community when I went through my injury. And even I've been injured 24 years. I got injured back in 2000. And the support that I think all of us, I'm sure you get the same support, like the support and the inspiration I still get every single day from Penn State people is unbelievable. Like I got injured 24 years ago. Like people, you weren't even born. Like people, the dudes weren't even born when I got injured, and even for you to have me here today, it's like, man, it's such a cool bond that we all have through the shared experience of going through Penn State, which is unique. I don't think you had that at many other places.
No, yeah, I was literally just saying that someone asked me if I regretted coming here, and I just said this last week. I'm like, dude, you took the words right out of my mouth. This was the best place for me to get injured at, because I really did feel like if I got injured anywhere else, the outcome would not have been the same. I mean, this is the reason why the support I have is the reason why I'm sitting here with you today, being able to do this type of media stuff. There's no other alumni network, but even forget alumni family like Penn State, 100%. Adam,
I was just saying, I remember when you were going through your stuff, like people were calling me, and I know we had never met before, like TK, like Todd Kolk and Coach Franklin, like so many people, and just like random fans would like reach out to me and like, hey, have you connected with Landon? And I'm the type of like, how it is when you're going through these, career-ending injuries. It takes time for people to want to talk about it. And I've always said, we're all here to help each other get through it, but for me, I wasn't ready to talk to anyone for a few months, maybe even a year after my injury. But once, you come to the reality that life goes on and you got so many other talents, that's when you're ready to really spread your wings, man. And you're doing it right now, which is amazing to see.
I appreciate it, Adam, man. You killing it too. I did want to talk about that though. Like, I feel like that is honestly the hardest transition for a lot of guys, whether it's a career-ending injury for you or me, or someone just has to retire from ball because they just can't do it anymore. Transitioning to that life of normalcy is hard for anybody, because you know how it is. We are on a schedule. You look down, I mean, back then you had it on paper. Now we have it on our phones. You look down at teamwork. It's like, all right, I got to be here at 10, here at 12. It's all mapped out for you. Now you wake up in the next day and it's like, okay, I can do whatever I want. I can go whatever. I go watch TV for 10 hours if I want and waste some time. So how was that transition for you from that life of being just on a schedule 24/7 to a life of normalcy where it was kind of like, okay, where do I go from here?
Yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head. It was such a difficult transition. And for me, I was in rehab. I got injured. I was in the hospital rehab for 8 months. So there was a schedule with that. So I still felt like I was, an athlete from some perspective, because I had to do my therapy 3 times a day, blah, blah, blah. But when I got out and it was time for me to go back to Penn State, that's when it hit me. I didn't have to get up for workouts anymore. And I didn't, I had the option of going to team meetings, but I didn't have to go. So that's when I felt like, I wouldn't say I was depressed, but that's when I was like, man, like it started to hit me. Like, I can't believe like it's over. I can't believe this happened. And I didn't have that feeling when I was going through therapy and rehab. But when I got back to Penn State, I'm like sitting in the locker room. I'm seeing like everyone getting ready for practice. And I'm just sitting here in the locker room, just hanging. And it took me probably like first couple months being back at Penn State to kind of get out of that funk and feeling sorry for myself. And, I give credit to our Penn State staff, like Todd Kolka. I remember him pulling me in like, all right, let's chart out what you want to do. And he had me take like one of those tests where you answer a bunch of random questions, and it's supposed to tell you what you may want to do in life. And I did a couple of those. And then it just, talking to Coach Paterno, he would like, every time I would go into the football building, there were times I try to avoid him. Like I see him coming down the hall and I like try to like go into the locker room because I knew he was going to ask me like, what do you want to do? Like, how can I help you? And that's how it was with all our coaches and staff. And then we finally got to a point where they were like, have you thought about law? And I was like, man, like I never thought about it, but I want to stay involved in sports. And Coach Paterno was like, hey, I'll, reach out to Doug Allen, who was the VP of the NFLPA. And like literally one phone call, I had an internship with the NFLPA for the summer. And again, it's just the power of the Penn State community, the Penn State network. So I would say, yeah, it was tough those first couple months, but like anything else, you have to realize you can't change what happened. Like any of us, like I'll be lying to you if I didn't say there were days when even 24 years later, I'm like, man, why didn't I just step out the way? or like, come on, like out of all the people in the world, all the dudes that played at Penn State, like how did this happen? But you get to a point where I don't think you ever get over having an injury or your career ending early. Because for me, the one question I always have is like, what could have been? Like, I don't know, all of us playing at Penn State, I think have an opportunity to play in the NFL. But I just would have liked to have seen how far, I'm sure like you, just how far we could have taken it. So that's the thing that bothers me still, and I don't think I'll ever get over the fact that we never had the opportunity to see, we played against you played against guys that are in the NFL right now. You're like, man, I'm better than those guys.
Yeah.
And for me, it helps because I'm 42, so everyone I know that I played against is retired now, which makes it a little easier. But it's still like that pain of not having the opportunity to fully fulfill the God-given talent that we have is the thing that I still struggle with to this day.
Yeah, I think for me, you could talk about it a little bit, but like I had that, that why me for a while, and it's like you just can't figure out. It's like, why did this have to happen to me? And it's not until you turn that around and start living every day where it's where I'm thankful to wake up. Hey, I'm blessed to still be able to wake up. I'm still blessed to be able to whatever it is, my brain be working fine, or I'm able to function all the way correctly. Like that is a blessing in its own right. So I feel like it was for me. Once I started to kind of retrain my mind, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without all the support. If I was just alone, I would have been in my dark room doing nothing, just sleeping, being sad the whole time. But so I have to give the shout out to my family, the Penn State family as a whole. They're the reason for that switch in my head, and the reason why here I am 9 months later doing what I'm doing. And obviously you doing everything that you've done with a great career. And it's like, I think it is all about that mindset. That's how you have to retrain your mindset. If you get in a bad part of your life where you're kind of down in the depths, you got to retrain your mind to think positively every day and have that thankful mindset instead of a why me type of mindset.
Yeah, and I tell you, man, I give you so much more credit than even my journey, because like physically I couldn't do it. I was paralyzed. My body, I can't run. I couldn't do it. But for you to have, the physical ability to still do it, but from a head mindset, like you got to protect the most important part of your body, which is your brain. It's like, man, just having the ability to physically say, I can go out there and do it. Yeah. But the risk is not worth the reward. Is man, I give you so much credit, because I always think like, man, if my body still allowed me to try to get out there, some people are like, man, I'm just gonna go out there and do it. Yeah. And I'm so inspired by you, man, because I just know how hard it was for me, even though I could physically, there's no way I could have played because of the substantial nature of my injury,
No, I appreciate that. I mean, it was really different. I don't mean to like hijack this at all. I just want to, I appreciate you saying that. It was real. It was difficult. It's one of those things like technically people ask me when technically could I be playing still? Yes. But like you said, it was about my future. And I, never wanted to be in that where I was mentally ever again. And it was, for a while. And, there's so many things I wanted to do. And I know you can relate to that of, whatever, having a family, building something cool, owning my own business, that type of thing. So that you're absolutely right there. Of there's sacrifices, man. You got to make in life. And, you just got to keep pushing. But Adam, I was watching a couple of your speeches while I was kind of prepping for this. And I heard you talk about your physical therapist, and obviously you worked with her all day, every day. Can you tell me a little bit about her and kind of your guys' relationship from the start, and then how that, if you still talk to this day, and what that's like?
Yeah, man. I tell people all the time, like, playing sports, you used to having coaches, guide you, yell at you, keep you focused. And it was primarily men my entire life. But when I had my physical therapist, they were all these, 5'6" women that I always say were tougher than any football coach that I had in my life. And they, physical therapists, we always say they're like angels walking on earth, because they dedicate their entire lives to helping people get better. And for me, I had, just such great, therapists at a place called McGee Rehab. And my main physical therapist, her name was Amy Bratta. And again, this is 24 years ago. And Amy, like I have a foundation. Amy's on the board of my foundation. That's awesome. I still talk to the entire McGee, team that took care of me. I still talk to all those folks, man, because you know how it is. Like if it wasn't for them, my story would have been a lot different. And I was in the hospital for 8 months. So there's days when you're like, man, you start to question, for me, if I was going to walk again, is this therapy working? And you wake up some days and you just, your body's not working. You don't feel like getting out of bed. But being able to have, that therapist, that therapy team to inspire you to work hard each and every day was, something I didn't take for granted. And even to this day, I'm just thankful I've had them in my corner, man, because they got me back. When I first got injured, the doctors weren't sure if I was ever going to walk again. And I tell people all the time, people like, Adam, it's great you walked again. I'm like, yeah. And yeah, but without the people around me, my story would have been so much different. It was a group of people that pushed me every day to get this, get my body back to a point where I was able to, walk on my own. So I will forever be thankful for nurses, doctors, and our team, Dr. Sebastianelli. Like anytime I get to see him, man, like I'm just so thankful because without those people, my life would have been completely different.
Yeah, no, it is. Those people, man, those are the true heroes that people don't talk about enough, that save us every time we need them and get us back out on the field if we can. And it is. They deserve a lot more credit than they get. But Adam, I was just with Spider the other day. I've had him on once. I'm gonna have him on again. So everybody, and we went to the stadium. He has like a man cave. I don't know if you've been in there.
Oh, I've heard about it.
He has some of the craziest stuff in there. If I had to guess, me and my video dude, we were talking about it afterwards. We were like, there has to be over $1 million worth of stuff in there. It's like Joe Paterno's last shoes that he wore, all that stuff. But he was telling me, so I got to ask you, he was talking about when you ran out on the field and you kind of surprised the fan base. And so is this true that you originally did not plan, or you were just supposed to completely walk, right?
Yeah. It was so funny, man. Like, I remember it like it was yesterday. We were playing Miami. We had just expanded our stadium. We were playing a night game, and like that entire day, I remember just being nervous. I'm like, man, because I was like still struggling to walk a little bit. Like, man, please don't let me go out here and like trip and fall or do something crazy. And I remember Dr. Sebastianelli coming into the locker room. He's like, man, he could tell I was nervous. He's like, whatever you do, people are going to appreciate it. So just take your time, walk slow, and you'll be good. And the game comes. You know how it is. Like, the stadium's going crazy. And I think I'm just gonna like come out with the team, but Spider's like, hey, like you gotta go out now. I'm like, we're not going out for like another 10 minutes. Like, no, just go out now. And they walk me out to the tunnel, and I just hear like, I guess they showed me walking on the jumbotron, and like the plays, like it was just getting louder and louder. And then they like announced my name, and I'm like, I'll take a couple of steps. I'm like just trying to make sure like I don't want to fall. So I'm like taking a couple of steps, and it kept getting louder as I was like walking out. I was like, man, I'm gonna try to like skip a little bit. And it was like, oh, my legs feeling all right today. And I was able to just take like a short couple jogging steps. And I laugh and I tell people like I haven't ran again since that day. I said I still don't understand like how that was able to happen. And I say it was purely adrenaline, and the Penn State community like pushed me to run really quickly out of that tunnel it was like 5 yards, but I was like, it's the best 5 yards of my life because these legs have not allowed me to run a day since that moment, and something I'll always cherish for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's a testament to Beaver Stadium, and we all know as Penn State football players walking out of that tunnel for a home game, you're the hairs on your arms stand up every single time. So it's a special place. You can't replicate that feeling at all. So that's a really awesome story, Adam. But I want to transition a little bit into now what you got into after everything happened. So obviously you went to Rutgers, and that's where you got your law degree from. What was that experience like? Were you at Rutgers? Was it like an online program?
Yeah, no, I was at Rutgers, man. It was such a different experience from you're at Penn State, you're on campus, and like a huge sprawling campus. And I remember coming to Rutgers for the first time. Like, man, I'm like wearing all my Penn State stuff, and I'm just like sitting in the back of the class at Rutgers Law School. And it was just different because when you get to law school, you're like, man, all these people are like way smarter than me, probably. Like they're like scholars. They've been like the top of their classes at the various colleges that they went to. So I will tell you, it was like kind of it was like walking into the locker room playing football for the first time. You're like, man, I don't know if I can hang like with all these smart kids from across the country that are coming to law school, but like anything else, man, you get in there and you're like, man, I can do this. Like this is just like learning the playbook or learning in college. And I was, asked all the questions in the world, and it was law school's 3 years, so it was a great 3-year experience, man. And I tell people, anyone that wants to go to law school, I say, even if you don't plan on practicing law, the really cool thing about it is it just teaches you how to think a different way. Like, it teaches you, like, sometimes there's more than one right answer, or if you're wrong, if you can argue it, and make a fact pattern fit into your way of thinking, maybe you can make it right. It's just about convincing people and helping them understand your point of view. So it teaches so many wonderful life skills. And I went to Rutgers, and it was 2005, and graduated from Rutgers Law in 2008, and started practicing at a law firm in Philly. So it just seemed like it flew by, man. Compared to my Penn State experience, it felt like forever, in a good way. Going to law school was like, man, it just blew by super quick.
Yeah. Did you go to any football games at Rutgers?
Nah, man. I was like, I couldn't bring myself to do that. I was like, well, it was funny. Like, I didn't have, I wasn't married yet, so I didn't have any kids. So I was still going up to Penn State, like every home game. I was going up to Penn State still. So I was like,
right.
Law school. I don't think I had any classes on Fridays. So like I would, especially like the year after I graduated from Penn State, I was still going up there like every weekend for all the home games. That was like my little getaway, dealing with the craziness of law school.
That's what's up. Yeah, you can't go to that. Doesn't compare. Rutgers home game, Penn State home games, not even close. Not even close, Adam. Well, yeah, look at it. So you started your own foundation, the Adam Taliaferro Foundation. You served on the board of trustees here at Penn State. You've done a lot of stuff. You obviously have a clear passion to serve and help others. Where did that come from? Did you have that from the beginning, or did you kind of get some of that perspective after your injury?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I always, my parents always taught me about giving back and, being grateful and trying to, we were blessed in so many different ways. I mean, growing up, I grew up in a great town and, never had to, want or need for anything. My parents were able to provide, whatever we needed. But when I was going through my injury, I just saw the amount of people that reached out to me. The thing that really resonated with me is like people I never met in my life that were just doing like just acts of kindness. Like I was just blown away. I mean, every day, the people just doing just awesome stuff. And I was like, man, when I get through this, I want to be able to help people the way that people help me. I want to be able to make people feel the way that others made me feel when I was going through my injury. So, the main thing I saw was when I was in the hospital for 8 months, I would have people come visit me every day. Like our Penn State staff would fly down every week. My teammates would fly down every week. And there were other people in the hospital that didn't have that. And they would just sit there, no visitors, and they would give up. Like it would be so easy for people to give up because they didn't have that support. So the foundation was created through my experience of the love and compassion. And we created this foundation. My high school football coach and some other guys here in South Jersey came up with the idea to create this foundation to give people the same experience that I had when I was going through my recovery, financially and emotionally, because financially, we didn't have to worry about anything. Like my parents had insurance, Penn State provided whatever I needed. And we want to provide that same type of experience for anyone. So we provide financial support and we provide that emotional support. We go visit people. We provide them funding. So all they have to do is worry about is getting better. They don't have to worry about, am I going to be able to pay to stay here? Is my house going to be wheelchair accessible? Like if you have an injury, let us know. We'll make your house wheelchair accessible so you can get into your house, so you can take a shower. So, and the biggest thing is just like, hey, man, we're here for you, because that helped me when I was going through my injury. You feel alone at times, like, man, no one else is going through this. But it helped me talking to people who have had spinal cord injuries. Like, hey, I had an injury. I'm all good. Like I'm living life. I got a family. So that's why that's my main job within the foundation, is to be like, if anyone has an injury, let's talk about it. Let's know that this isn't the end of the road. This may just be the start of your journey. And there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. So it's been a blessing for me. I always say my name's on the foundation, but it's run by, a guy by the name of Tom Microphone, who's our president. And we have a tremendous board that have dedicated their time and energy, entirely volunteer, to bringing positivity to people going through these horrible injuries, which is just awesome. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Do you want to plug? So where can everybody find that online or search it up?
Yeah, it's taliaferrofoundation.org online. If you just Google my name, it pops up. So, we do a few events. We do a golf outing. We do a gala. And we do a 707 football tournament every year.
Oh, yeah.
South Jersey. So it's great, man. It's a labor of love. Literally every cent that we raise goes towards helping patients. So no one takes a salary. It's all about helping people, get through these injuries.
That's awesome. When you were talking about that, you had the hairs on my arm standing up, Adam, and that's awesome. And that's so cool that you can kind of be a mentor to people that have went through it. Because I felt the same way. Like I was able to talk to, obviously you mentioned like we didn't connect, but I was like Journey Brown. I talked to Journey Brown because I kind of knew him, and he was able to give me some really good perspective. And even other guys like Mike Motti, he even played a little bit in the league, but he kind of got it taken away from him through injuries and stuff like that. it's so nice to hear that perspective from someone else that has already been through that, and you see them on the other side, and it's like, okay, this dude made it. I can do this too. I got it in me. So no, that's awesome that you're able to do that. But Adam, last question I want to ask you that I normally ask all my Paterno people just because I know the fans love hearing it. Do you have a favorite Joe Paterno story? Whether that was him ripping you a new one or that was, recruitment, whatever it was. What's your most memorable or favorite Joe Pa story?
No, there's a couple. I mean, one from when I was playing. I remember like our first week of practice, our first week of pads. I got beat deep, and I remember like just laying on the ground. And, again, like in high school, like that never happens. Like, I'm sure no one messed with you in high school, like you were the man, and like no one beat me in high school. But I remember I got beat deep, and I laid down, and coach was like, "I'll send you back to South Jersey." Like he just ripped into me, like don't like just get to the next play. Yeah. That's when I realized like this is like a whole nother level, man. Like I gotta step it up. But I said the biggest thing I learned about coach was after my injury when he would come down to the hospital that I was at, and like the hospital would be buzzing when people found out like Coach Paterno was there. Mm-hmm. Like people would like be walking by my room, and the thing that I will always remember, it was like during the holidays I was in the hospital, and he literally stayed in the hospital for like 4 hours, just like signing autographs, like visiting with all the patients. And he didn't have to do that, man. Like this was during the season. I think we were getting ready for a bowl game. And he just spent and there was no cameras or anything. It was just coach just being there for so many, like the entire hospital who was going through like either spinal cord injuries or brain injuries. And he just was like so gracious with everybody. He just made like 200 patients a holiday season just by sharing time with them, and no one ever saw it or knew about it, but that's just the type of person that he was. So I just think, man, he was a great guy and just always made time for people and helped me and my family, get through one of the toughest times in our lives.
Yeah, he was a great. I'm sad I never met him, but especially after my retirement, I have heard so many stories about Joe Paterno that it's just like I told you when I was in Spider's office, out on the wall, there's a picture of him with Reagan, and then there's a picture of him with Bush too. When Bush came and like saw the team, I'm like, dude, this guy had presidents coming to see him. Like,
he was the guy.
There's no comparison of any coach ever. But look, Adam Taliaferro, thank you so much for coming on, man. Absolute Penn State legend. Congrats for everything that's going on in your life, man. You are an inspiration to everybody, truly. So thank you so much for coming on.
No, man, it was an honor, man, and thank you for all that you do, man, and all that you continue to do. It's for guys like us that have had career-ending injuries, you are a shining example of what can be after these things happen. So I'm here for you anytime you need me, and just appreciate you having me with you today, man.
Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
All right, brother. Take care.
See you.